big Stars and Stripes card is almost upon us this Saturday at Great Carter Racing. 11 races, 5 of them stakes worth nearly $4 million. And those 5 stakes are going to comprise a Naira Bets late pick 5. And remember that Naira Bets late pick 5, if you're not in New York State, the only way to play it is through Naira Bets. That's why you got to be a member of Naira Bets. And there's so many other reasons to be a member as well. Bet 200, get 200, use promo code SPRING, sign up for Naira Bets, play the Naira Bets late pick 5 every day, and so many other things like Exacta winners bonus for the stake races on the Stars and Stripes card. If you play the Exactas through Naira Bets and you hit, you will share in 500,000 points per race. And people that hit the most races, they'll share in 1,000,000 points. Those races begin with the Dwyer, and that'll be the first leg of the Naira Bets late pick 5. And remember, $100,000 bonus, $100,000 minimum if there's one winner and that person played through Naira Bets, always Saturdays here at Belmont Park. The big story, obviously, is the reappearance of Mendelssohn. Mendelssohn was a sensation when he won the UAE Derby over in Dubai back in late March, and a lot of people said, this is your Derby winner. Well, he wasn't your Derby winner, but he was your last place finisher. Now, to be fair, it was a sloppy track. He was bounced around by Magnum Moon. Magnum Moon may have been retired after the Derby, but he did his damage on Mendelssohn, poor Mendelssohn early in the race, and basically Ryan Moore just eased up on the backstretch when he realized all was lost. A reasonable decision. Now, I don't know if Mendelssohn is as good as that inside speed-favoring track 20-length win in Dubai was, but I know he's a lot better than his Kentucky Derby performance. But a theme you're going to hear from me during this preview is Aiden O'Brien, who is 3 for 36 with his North American shippers outside of the Breeders' Cup over the last 5 years. Not a lot of success, but Mendelssohn may be an outlier there because he's a legitimately good horse, and he's a talented runner on the dirt as well, and he's the horse to beat here. But he's not meeting a bunch of slouches. Now, one horse he's got to deal with is Noble Indy. Now, obviously, Noble Indy didn't fare well in either the Belmont Stakes, the Kentucky Derby, but when he's in more reasonable spots like the Dwyer, he can run a race like he ran in the Louisiana Derby, where he fought a fast pace that basically collapsed. He was easily passed by the talented Lone Sailor and battled back to win the race. If the Noble Indy that showed up in the Louisiana Derby shows up in the Dwyer, I don't care what Mendelssohn does, he's going to be very tough. You have to question whether or not the Triple Crown race took a toll on him, and I think there's a possibility they did, but I do think he's a dangerous player. I also think the 3 Rugby Man is a dangerous player in this race as well. Grand Motion puts blinkers on a horse that broke a little bit better last time. He hung a little bit in that race, but it was dominated in the front end. That was the easy goer on Belmont Stakes Day. Is he ready to step up and take on better horses? We'll find out, but I think he's very dangerous. And I think the 7 Frenzy Fire, Jason Service on fire this meet, and he's turning this one back the distance that won the Champagne for him over Good Magic, and this is what he wants to do. 1-turn races, 7 furlongs to a mile. All of these horses, Rugby Man, Noble Indy, Mendelssohn, and Frenzy Fire can win. I'm keying in on Rugby Man and Mendelssohn. Race number 7, the Belmont Sprint Championship. Limousine Liberal is absolutely the horse to beat and has to be a main player in your pick 5. This is the Churchill Downs, where he ran valiantly to come back and win the slop. Now, Whitmore, who we'll get to, is getting a rough trip behind him. He finished 4th, and we'll talk about him more in a moment. But Limousine Liberal looked beaten by a number of horses at different occasions, and he battled back gamely to win the race. One thing I will say about Limousine Liberal, he is a better horse in Kentucky, and he's particularly a better horse on a wet track. So is he good enough to win this race in New York on a fast track? I think he is. He ran reasonably well to finish 3rd in the Metropolitan Handicap last time, a distant 3rd. His second to run happy at Saratoga in the in the race that is now the Alan Jerkins, the King's Bishop at the time, was a terrific performance. And even his second place finish in our Vanderbilt, when he was way against the track bias, was good enough to win. He is the horse to beat, but he's got to deal with Whitmore. And the question for Whitmore is, will he get enough pace to run into? And is his closing kick somewhat mitigated as he goes 7 furlongs? Now, he was compromised by the sloppy seal track behind Limousine Liberal and a trip at Churchill Downs. Got a very good ride last time from Ricardo Santana. He just came up a bit short to a very good horse, Imperial Hint. They're the main 2, and I don't think you're playing this Naira Bets late pick 5 and leaving them off. The question is there another player in here you want to use? And for me, there is one other player. That player would be favorable outcome on the outside. Now, there is no question he has been somewhat disappointing. It looked like he could be a good horse, a lot of stops and starts, and he has not gotten it done in the big spots. But I thought he ran well in the slop, chasing a loose in the lead, recruiting ready last time out, and I think he's going to run his best race. I don't know if it's going to be good enough to beat the top 2. 2. I picked him second behind Limousine Liberal, but I could use all and any of the 1, 2, and 6 in the second leg of the Naira Bets late pick 5. That's the Belmont Sprint Championship. Now we come to the big 3-year-old races, the Belmont Oaks Invitational at 1.25 miles. And the most important prep race for this was the Wonder Again run right here at Belmont Park. And the top 3 finishers are all back. Lag Signari, who was able to cut a very modest pace up front, significant form, the favorite who finished second behind her, and the third-place finisher, another Chad Brown entrant, that's Mighty Scarlet, a lightly raced but improving horse. All 3 of these can win. I prefer significant form, as I think with her rail draw, I think they'll be more aggressive and try to wire this field. I think that will suit her better. I cannot ignore La Signari, who's run well in her starts in this country for Brian Lynch, and she's a real up-and-comer. Mighty Scarlet would be maybe a C for me. Those 2 have to be used. The question is, who else would you use? Could you use the California Invaders? Maybe I could use Fatal Bear, whose rider's saddle slipped last time out. But for me, Toinette is the most dangerous horse coming from a different direction. The question with Toinette and so many of these horses is whether or not they'll be suited to 1.25 miles. And her closing style, people will say she can, but is she really a horse that will get better with this much more distance? I question it. She also got a situation where Daddy is a Legend and Rushing Falls were both probably too aggressively ridden too early in this race, and it took a toll, and it set it up for a closing kick. I am not discounting her talent. I'm not telling you she can't win this race, but I think Toinette may have her hands full a bit in this race with significant form in La Signari, but she was my third choice. European Invaders. Well, Capla Temptress is a talented horse, and she ran well in the French Guineas last time, but I question whether or not 1.25 miles won't be too far for her. The Aiden O'Brien horse, well, I told you those Aiden O'Brien stats, and none of those winners, the 3 out of 36, were fillies, and Athena ran just 6 days before this, running Sunday, finishing a decent third at the Curragh. I'm skeptical of those 2 horses. We'll see how they do. I'm focusing in mostly on significant form and La Signari in the Belmont Oaks Invitational. The Suburban, it came up a killer. 11 horses entered the 1.25 miles Suburban. It's the 4th leg of the Naira Bets late pick 5 in the Stars and Stripes card. And I think the horse you have to start out talking about is Tappert. And I don't think Tappert will be favored in here, but Tappert was the 2017 Belmont Stakes winner, and obviously, he had some issues, but to be fair, he didn't run that badly when 4th in our Travers. He made a bit of a middle move after being wide in the first turn. He wanted to be on the rail that day, and I liked his return race and allowance race. Some will look at it and say, well, how's he going to be ready to step up and win the Suburban off that? But I'm going to say Todd Fletcher got what he wanted out of the race. He was a bit fresh, and he attacked a very fast early pace, much closer than he wants to be to run his best races. And I still think he held on well to be 3rd, beaten just over a length. That race should suit him well as a prep for this, and I think Tapper is a major player in the Suburban, excuse me. He's got a deal, though, with Dr. Dorr, who may be the favorite. And Dr. Dorr is 1 of 2 for Baffert. We'll get to the other one in just a moment. But Dr. Dorr is a very dangerous horse, and he may be the horse to beat. His last 2 races are absolutely sensational. Second to Accelerate at this point is the top handicap horse in the country, arguably at least. The race before that, he was very good at Santa Anita. Now, can he deal with the speed of Diversify? I don't know. That could be a problem. He's going to have to sit behind Diversify, take over, and hold off the closers. But I think in Dr. Dorr's current form, he's the horse to beat, and you can't deny Bob Baffert's success, especially in New York over the past year or so. Bob Baffert's also got Opportunity, and we saw Opportunity on Belmont Stakes Day when he won the Brooklyn. And here he is getting the Brooklyn. He's 2 for 2 at Belmont. He also won our Jockey Club Gold Cup. In fact, we've got the last 2 winners of the Jockey Club Gold Cup in this race because Diversify, who won last year, is in here as well. War Story ran gamely in there. Did the 1.5 miles get to him? I don't know. He had no problem with it last year when he won the Brooklyn. Maybe Opportunity was just better. And even Take Your Guns, who was 4th. He's a lightly raced, improving horse for Chad Brown. And maybe 1.25 miles will be better for him than the 1.5 miles. They all can win. I think I could use any and all of those horses. War Story, Opportunity, and Take Your Guns. War Story, I'm a little dubious of his recent form. He would be maybe a B minus, a C for me. I definitely want to use Tappert. I want to use Dr. Dorr. I probably want to use Opportunity. They're my main 3. Diversify is going to beat me. I love this New York bred. He's a wonderful horse, but I wonder about his recent form. And dealing with the speed of Dr. Dorr, at some point, it's going to be a tougher race for him than the Jockey Club Gold Cup last year, and I prefer others, but it's a fun race, the Suburban. Race number 10. It closes it out, the last leg of the Naira Bets late pick 5, and it is the Belmont Derby. And keep in mind, Suburban and Belmont Derby, they'll be on a Belmont Park Live that we'll be showing. The other races in this sequence, they'll be shown on NBC. All races covered during the sequence. Let's start out with Analyze It and Catholic Boy hooking up again. And boy, did they lay it down in the prep for this race, the Pennine Ridge. Analyze it, the undefeated horse going into, the sensation in the country. He looked like he had the race wrapped up. He went by Catholic Boy, looked like he had this race easily wrapped up, and then he sort of labored late in the race. And I think it does open up the question on whether or not he's more of a miler type and if he can get the 1.25 miles here. And I think it's a valid question. It's not a question for Catholic Boy, and he absolutely has to be used. But I am not going to give up on Analyze It because of one race like that. This is the race they've been pointing for. That race was a prep race. They wanted to win it. I understand. But this is the one you want to win. And I think Analyze It may go to the lead like Oscar Performance did last year and wire this field. I believe he's the horse to beat. There are other horses you have to look at, though. And we'll stay in the U.S. for now, and we'll talk about Hawkish, because Hawkish is a very good horse. Now, similar to a situation over a decade ago when Kitten's Joy could show he could go longer, and the very talented Artie Schiller proved to be a miler, we have to find out who wants a mile, who can get a 1.25 miles. And that could be said for Analyze It and Hawkish. But I got to tell you, Hawkish was very good in winning the Penn Mile. Now, he's meeting much tougher horses in here, but he was a bit aggressive. You could argue that Manny Franco had to let him roll earlier than he might have wanted to. He moved 4 wide in the second turn. After the first turn, he was a little bit off the rail. This Hawkish is a very good horse for an excellent trainer in Jimmy Toner. I don't know if he's a 1.25 miles horse, and I'm a bit skeptical. And I don't know if he's ready to take on tougher company, but don't kid yourself. This is a good horse, and he could certainly win this race. Now, the European that I think you'll want to use in here, and I know it's Aiden O'Brien, but he has won this race before. He won it with Deauville just a couple of years ago, and Huntinghorn is a dangerous horse. And any horse that ran at Ascot and won a race by 4.5 lengths has to be respected. Now, I don't think that the field necessarily in the Hampton Court was that strong, but his effort in the Prix de Jockey Club at Chantilly, the French Derby, was actually a very good one before that when he finished 6th. He's a dangerous player in this race. He gets Lasix, and I don't think you can ignore Huntinghorn's Howland. I'm not worried that he's coming back in just 16 days. Aiden O'Brien had success running back on short rest. Maybe not 6 days, but 16 days might be a long rest. And Huntinghorn is a horse I think that you want to use in here. The other European Kingstar interests me a little bit as well. He's lightly raced. He beat some fillies. He's run against fillies in some of his races, but the fillies and the colts, they run against each other over in Europe, and this horse has had one prep. Now, Pia Brand, who brings him over, finished second in this race last year with Call to the Bar. So she's had success. She's run 3 horses in this country. None of them have won, but 2 finished second. The other one was Rimska, who ended up in Chad Brown's barn, and is a very talented runner. So I think that Kingstar is actually a very interesting horse, and I could use him as an outlier, but I think that Analyze It's going to be very tough in here. Catholic Boy, Huntinghorn must be respected. It is a tremendous sequence. It is all part of the Naira Bets late pick 5, but exacta bonuses as well. 500,000-point hit and split. Every exacta through Naira Bets on the Stars and Stripes Stakes, and anybody who hits the most, they will share in 1 million points after it's done. If you want to enjoy the benefits of all of that, and you want to play the Naira Bets late pick 5, encompassing all stakes in the Stars and Stripes program, and you're not in New York State, you got to do it through Naira Bets. And the only way to be eligible for the bonus, well, through Naira Bets, bet 200, get 200. Promo code is spring, but it's summer, and the Stars and Stripes is going to heat it up this Saturday at Belmont Park.